Have you ever heard a child talk about an imaginary friend that felt too real? Tonight's story, The Man in the Birch Tree, isn't just about grief. It's about what grief might summon. If you enjoy psychological horror, forest monsters, and the eerie line between hallucination and truth, you're in the right place. Hit that like button if you've ever felt something watching you in the woods. Let's begin. I came here to forget. That was the lie I told the realtor when she handed me the keys. She wore the kind of smile that only exists in people who live in safer places, warmer places, places untouched by grief. She had no idea who I was. She only knew I was paying in full and that I wanted the cabin as remote as possible. Minnesota in early winter is what most people would call a mistake. For me, it was a form of silence. The cabin sits at the edge of a frozen lake, its surface a wide sheet of slate gray glass. Birch trees stand sentinel around the property, slender, pale, and peeling like bones jutting from the earth. They creak in the wind. Not groan, not sigh, creak, like joints popping under a weight that's no longer there. I arrived just before the first real snowfall. The wind was sharp, and the sky hung heavy with the promise of white silence. Inside, the cabin was clean but smelled of mothballs and cedar. There were still things here, things the last owner didn't bother taking. Books with yellowed pages, a few old toys in the attic, a rocking chair with a broken slat, swaying ever so slightly when I entered the living room. The kind of gentle movement you want to blame on a draft. I set down my duffel and sat in the silence. Not even birdsong, just wind and wood. The second night, I unpacked her drawings. I know I shouldn't have brought them. I told myself I wasn't here for closure, that I didn't believe in that word anymore. Closure is just forgetting with a better PR team. Her name was Ellie. She was 7 when she died. It still feels wrong to say was. Like I'm killing her twice. Her drawings were always the same: trees, stars, and a man with long, thin limbs standing in a birch tree. Sometimes he smiled. Sometimes he didn't have a face. Once, she drew him holding her hand. I remember when she first told me about him. "Daddy, the birch man watches me sleep, but he doesn't blink." I laughed it off. Kids are weird. But now, sitting here, surrounded by birch trees, looking at those crayon lines, I don't feel like laughing. I feel watched. On the third night, I heard footsteps outside. I turned off the lights and stood by the window. There was nothing, just the faint outline of the trees in the moonlight. The sound had stopped. I told myself it was an animal. A fox, maybe, but the steps had a rhythm, a pattern, not a scurry, not a trot. A walk. The next morning, I found a small pile of birch bark on the porch, arranged like a child's art project, strips fanned out like sun rays. Or a crown. I didn't touch it, just stared at it for a long time, hard in my throat. Then I swept it off the edge with my boot and went back inside. That night, I dreamed of her. Ellie. She was standing at the edge of the woods, barefoot in the snow, smiling.
"He says you're lonely,"
she whispered. I tried to move toward her, but my legs were stuck, like frozen into the floor. Then she turned and walked into the trees. And I swear, the birch trunks moved to let her pass. I've started talking to her out loud, not in a crazy man in a cabin kind of way, more like a father trying to keep his daughter from fading. I sit by the fireplace, holding her old stuffed rabbit, and ask if she remembers the lake, the cabin, her favorite bedtime song. No one answers, of course, but sometimes, when I close my eyes, I swear I hear laughter from outside. Not cruel, not mocking, just small, childlike, like she's still out there, just out of reach. This morning, I found something under the cabin. The snow had melted a little near the base of the porch, revealing a hatch. Rusted shut. I pried it open with a crowbar I found in the shed. Inside, an old crawl space. Dirt floor. Rotting wood beams. And her shoes. Pink sneakers. The same kind Ellie wore. No. That's not right. Hers were buried with her. These are just the same style. A coincidence, except one of them has her name scratched into the sole, LEM. My hand shook for an hour after I came back up. I'm starting to feel watched again. Not the way you feel when you think someone might be nearby. No. This is specific. Focused. Like a gaze pressing into the back of your skull. I catch myself looking out the window every few minutes. Always at the same tree. One birch, thicker than the rest, about 40 feet from the cabin. And I swear to God, it's getting closer. The snow hasn't stopped for 3 days. It comes down in waves, sometimes light, like ash, and other times in sheets so dense the windows fog from cold alone. I haven't seen the sun since I found the shoes. I try not to think about them, but the image plays in my mind like a film reel I didn't ask to watch. Pink sneakers, mud-stained laces. Her name, scratched into the rubber. There's no way they're hers. There can't be. And yet, every time I look out at the trees, they feel like the answer I'm not ready to accept. Ellie first told me about him when she was 5 that we were camping. Not here, but upstate. In one of those quiet wooded campgrounds with too many mosquitoes and not enough cell signal. She'd woken up crying in the tent. When I asked what was wrong, she said,
I saw the birch man.
He talks funny. He said I was almost ready. I'd chalked it up to a nightmare. Kids say weird things, but she kept drawing him after that. Every week, a new picture. A stick-thin man crouched in the branches, too long, too tall, too pale. His fingers stretched like roots. Sometimes, he didn't have eyes. I asked where she saw him, and she'd always point to the trees, always the birch trees. This morning, I found another drawing. Not in the old box from her bedroom. This one was new. The paper was fresh, the crayon strokes jagged, rushed. It was left on the kitchen table like a gift or a warning. It showed the cabin, surrounded by birch trees. Inside the window, me, and behind me, the man. His arms reached from the ceiling to the floor. His mouth was open. There were no eyes. I burned the drawing in the fireplace. The paper curled in on itself like it didn't want to die. Later that night, I saw something in the trees. It was just past midnight. I was sitting near the back window, no lights on, the storm glowing silver through the glass. Everything was quiet, eerily so. No wind, no creaking wood, just stillness. Then, movement. One tree swayed, then another. A shape passed between them. Tall, white-limbed, unnaturally smooth. It didn't walk. It glided. I pressed my face to the cold glass. My breath fogged it slightly, but I swear I saw it pause, as if it saw me too. I didn't sleep that night. The dreams have gotten worse. Ellie appears at the foot of my bed, covered in snow, whispering things I can't understand. Her eyes are open, but glassy. Her lips move like they're mimicking speech without meaning. Behind her, always in the corner of the room, is the man in the birch tree. Sometimes he wears her face. Other times, he wears mine. I tried to leave today. I packed my bag, started the car, and backed down the driveway. The snow had let up for a few hours. But as soon as I hit the tree line, the engine sputtered and died, dead. No warning, no lights, just silence. I popped the hood, but everything looked fine. Too fine, like it had never been started at all. I slammed it shut, turned around, and in the distance, between the trees, I saw her, Ellie, barefoot, coatless. She didn't move, just watched. And then she lifted her hand and pointed behind me. I turned at N01 there. But the birch tree closest to me now had a deep gash in its bark, 3 claw marks, raw and weeping sap like blood. I walked back to the cabin in a daze. The wind picked up. The snow came again, faster than before. I could barely see, but I heard something whispering in the white.
You left her. You let her die.
I don't remember falling, just the cold. I woke up on the porch hours later. The front door was open, and inside, the rocking chair was moving again, not creaking, rocking. It's nighttime now. I've locked every door, closed every window. I've pulled the shades and lit every lamp I can find. Still, I hear them. The trees are talking, low groans of bark, like language spoken in grief. And somewhere in the middle of it all, a lullaby. Ellie's favorite, the one I sang to her every night. How the hell would it know that? I don't think this thing wants to hurt me. Not yet. I think it wants me to join it. And the worst part is, a piece of me wants to. There's something inside the cabin now. It's not a sound, not a shadow. It's a weight, like the air has grown thicker, heavier, as if every breath carries someone else's grief. I feel it behind me when I turn. I smell it in the wood, wet soil, rotted bark, and something metallic. I hear it in the silence between the wind. I've started sleeping with a flashlight in my hand. I don't trust the dark anymore. Not after last night. I woke up to the sound of laughter, not Ellie's. Not entirely. It started as her voice, light and soft, but warped, echoing, like something was trying to remember how children laugh. When I opened my eyes, there were footprints in the snow just inside the front door. Small, barefoot. They led from the threshold to the hallway, and then they stopped, not faded, not melted, just stopped, as if she disappeared mid-step. This cabin has a crawl space I didn't notice before, not the one under the porch. This one's inside, beneath the old rug in the guest bedroom. I found it 2 nights ago after following the scent of pine and rot. The hatch was nailed shut. I pulled it open with the claw end of a hammer. Inside, darkness and something that sounded like breathing. I didn't go down. Not yet. I've started seeing the birch man clearly. He stands just beyond the tree lean during the day now. Not hiding anymore. He's tall, wrongly tall. His body bends like it's made of wood too old to bear weight. His skin is white-gray, striated like bark. And his face changes. Sometimes it's a blank oval. Sometimes it's hers. Sometimes it's mine, twisted in grief, as if he's learned to wear sorrow like a mask. And those arms, they don't end in fingers. They split into long, root-like tendrils that curl and stretch along the snow, twitching toward the cabin. Today, I found a voice recorder by the front door. It was one of Ellie's old toys. She used it to record bedtime stories, her own little fairy tales. I pressed play. Once upon a time, there was a little girl in the woods. She had no mommy. She had no daddy. But she had the man in the birch tree. And he was very nice until the crying started. The last 10 seconds were just static. Or not static. Something beneath it, something breathing, something whispering my name. There are new drawings on the walls. They weren't there yesterday. Now, they cover the hallway outside my bedroom, scrawled in crayon, same as before. A forest, a cabin, and me, smaller, thinner, eyes dark and empty. The birch man's limbs wrapped around me, pulling me up into the tree's. Point 1 drawing is different. It shows the inside of the crawl space, and something inside it. A figure curled into itself. Long limbs, no face, words scribbled underneath. He only wears what you give him. I finally went down. Tonight, I couldn't take it anymore. The whispers, the shifting air, the hum of a second presence in every room. I opened the hatch and climbed into the crawl space. It was colder than outside. Much colder. Like the earth itself was bleeding heat. The space is small, barely tall enough to crawl in. The floor is dirt, black and damp. And there, in the back corner, was a pile of things. Children's clothes, toys. A stuffed rabbit missing an eye, and Ellie's voice recorder, the second one. Not the one by the door. This one was still recording. The red light blinked. Slow and steady. I picked it up. He remembers every word. I dropped it and scrambled back up the hatch. The door to the crawl space slammed shut on its own. I hear Ellie's voice everywhere now. She tells me things I don't want to hear, that I stayed late at work the night she died, that I ignored the signs, that when she called for me, I didn't answer fast enough, that I used to tell myself it was the fever that killed her. Just the fever. But now I wonder, was it the Birch man who came for her first? Last night, I stood outside in the snow, barefoot, staring at the birch tree closest to the cabin, the thick one, the one that's been moving, inch by inch. It's only 20 feet away now. There's a hollow in the center of its trunk, high up where a branch broke off. I swear I saw something inside it. A face, not hers, not mine, but made from both, and it smiled. The trees are closer now. I measured. They've moved 6 feet closer to the cabin in the last 2 days. I would have laughed at myself once, called it grief or madness or both, but not anymore. Not after what I saw last night. I was washing my face in the bathroom, trying to shake off another sleepless night, when I looked up and saw someone standing behind me in the mirror. Not Ellie, not the man. Me. But wrong. His eyes were wide, empty. His mouth hung open like a scream, trying to remember how to begin. And when I turned around, nothing. The room was empty. But when I looked back in the mirror, he hadn't moved. He just whispered,
"Let it in."
The crawl space hatch is open again. I locked it. Nailed it shut. I know I did. But it's open now, and something's breathing louder down there. I don't go near it, because every time I do, I hear my daughter sobbing beneath the floorboards, and sometimes she laughs. Today, I woke up with dirt under my nails. No memory of digging. No shovel. Just the faint scent of rot and pine on my hands. I checked the crawl space. Nothing new. But outside, behind the cabin, I found something that wasn't there before. A mound. Freshly turned earth. And beside it, a single birch branch, driven into the soil like a marker, wrapped around its base, the remains of a pink shoelace. I can't run anymore. Every time I try, the trees thicken, bending in impossible ways, closing the road. Even GPS is nonsense now. The compass spins. The sky stays gray, and the air, it hums, like a distant voice tuning itself to grief. I hear Ellie clearly now. Sometimes she speaks like herself. Other times, the cadence is all wrong, like someone imitating her voice, but forgetting how a child breathes between words. She keeps saying,
"He only came because you invited him."
I ask her what that means. She says nothing, but I see it now. In dreams, in memory, in truth. The night she died, I was late. I told myself the fever wasn't serious. That kid's bounced back. That it was fine to finish that meeting. Just another hour by the time I came home. She was already cold. I've relived it 1,000 times. But now the memory has changed. Now, I see something standing at the edge of her bed, something white and tall, crouched low like a waiting spider, watching, whispering, And when she looked at me, when she called my name, it wasn't me she saw standing in the doorway. Tonight, the power went out. The storm is back, angrier than ever. The windows rattle like fists on glass. And from the woods, a song that a lullaby to my lullaby, the one I sang the night before she died, that it's not just her voice now, that it's mine, too, warped, slow, droning like wind through dead branches. That I opened the front door. The snow had stopped, and the man in the birch tree was standing on the porch. He doesn't knock. He doesn't speak. He just waits. I see myself in his face, my sadness, my silence, my failure. But I see her too, her fear, her loneliness, her hand reaching out for a father who didn't come fast enough. I let him in, not through the door, through the hollow. I went back to the crawl space. I crawled inside. The walls pulsed like lungs. The dirt was warm. And in the back corner, the pile of children's things was gone. In its place, a hollowed-out space, shaped like a man curled in grief. And as I stepped into it, I understood. This birch man, he isn't a hunter. He's a vessel. A mirror. A grave for those who cannot forgive themselves. He wears sorrow like bark, feeds on guilt like roots through rot. He came because I called him. Because every sleepless night, every whispered regret, every if only was a prayer, and he answered it. I don't remember climbing out, but I'm not the same. I move like myself. I speak like myself, but the world feels quieter, and when I look in the mirror now, he blinks just a second later than I do. The trees have stopped moving. The cabin is still, but something in me has been hollowed out, and when the wind blows through the birch trees, it sounds like a child crying. If you made it to the end of The Man in the Birch Tree, ask yourself, was it really guilt, or was there truly something in those woods? Let me know in the comments what you think the Birch Man really is, and if this story chilled you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out more grief, horror, and creepy forest tales on the channel. Until next time, stay warm and don't answer the whisper beneath your floor.